Hi, I'm Tori, and I just finished reading Between the Lines by Jodi Picoult and Samantha Van Leer. So this is a young adult book, kind of about fairy tales. This is about a fairy tale that comes to life, basically. And so the main character is a girl who starts reading the book, and suddenly she finds herself speaking to the main character, who is a prince, and hijinks ensue. It is, first of all, a very pretty book. The cover is pretty. You can see it's very shiny. And then it has all different kinds of fonts. Depending on whose perspective it's being told from, the font changes. And then it has some beautiful illustrations. It has two different kinds of illustrations. These kind of at the start of chapters. So this kind of thing will be at the start of a chapter. And then there will be just kind of little illustrations sprinkled throughout the story to kind of add a little bit of flavor. And there are actually two different illustrators credited. So I believe that two different people illustrated this book, just as two different people wrote the book. And so for a little bit of background, this book is written by Jodi Picoult and Samantha Van Leer. Now, Jodi Picoult has written many, many books on her own, and she kind of is a genre unto herself. It's hard to describe. Her books are very kind of like family-oriented crime dramas with a heart of gold and a twist at the end, kind of. And this was very different from Jodi Picoult's usual style. And that would be because she wrote it with her daughter, Samantha Van Leer. And I didn't realize until after I read it that her daughter was actually in high school when she helped her mom write it. So I don't know who did most of the writing, but it definitely comes across as its own book. It does not seem like just another Jodi Picoult book that she put her daughter's name on. So it's definitely something different. So this book was very sweet and cute, kind of. And I would say that this would be great for like the younger YA audience. So I feel like I would have really enjoyed this book when I was in about 6th grade and went through my Princess Diaries phase. The way they describe high school is very cheesy. I found myself skimming through a lot of those parts. The fairy tale aspect is adorable. So basically, there are 3 different perspectives it's told from. So you start the book, and the way it goes is every 3 chapters the cycle repeats. So the first chapter will be the actual fairy tale that the main character is reading, and you'll get a chunk of the fairy tale. Then the next chapter will be from the perspective of the prince, who is the main character in the story. And the 3rd chapter will be from the perspective of the human girl who lives in the real world. And so that was kind of a fun formula. Each character gets their own font, so that was really fun. This book was really cute. There were a lot of kind of fun things about it. There wasn't really anything that I just loved about it. It didn't jump off the page for me. But there was one thing I really disliked about it, and that's that this whole book is, like, the book thinks that it's telling you, oh, fairy tales are amazing. Don't you ever wish a fairy tale would come to life? But then at the same time, it's shaming the main character for reading fairy tales. And it's saying, oh, you're in high school, sweetie. That's really much, much too old to be reading fairy tales. You should get some help. And to the point where, like, her mother is concerned and sends her to a therapist because she's reading a fairy tale. And I just think that's so awful that this book that it's all about fairy tales. It's clearly marketed to people who love fairy tales, and then it's telling them that if they still like fairy tales, then they should really get some help because they're not quite mentally all there. And I think that's so sad. And so I was really sad that a book that clearly loves fairy tales and clearly loves everything about them thinks that once you're a grown-up you shouldn't be allowed to read fairy tales anymore. So I really disliked that part. So overall, this book was fun. I would recommend it to younger readers, and it was a very cute, lighthearted book. It definitely looks great. The production value on it is amazing, and that is my review.